Hello and welcome to
Last Figure Standing.
There we go. Welcome to round 2 results. Had to think about that for a second there. Welcome everybody. I will just quickly run through the chat, but first of all, I'd just like to welcome my guests. As always, we have Chris from Banterskull and John Miko, that you are very familiar with them on these Last Figure Standings live streams by now. And last week we had Tyler from the SWTVC as a special guest, and this week we have Victoria from Victoria's Cantina. So how are you, Victoria? You're all good?
I'm great, Tim. Thank you for inviting me on. Happy to be here with you guys and everybody hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you guys for being here with us.
Yeah, and I just first of all want to personally thank you for all of the coverage that you've given to Last Figure Standing. I know you mentioned it on your podcast, and I do have your personal top 10 here as well, which we will take a very quick look at before we get onto the results. But yeah, just appreciate all the sharing and the coverage that you've given it. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. It's amazing to see things like this in the community that people can rally behind and support and demonstrate, what it is the community wants. So it's all great stuff. Thank you guys for your hard work that you put into all of this.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, let's just have a quick say hello to some people in the chat. We've got some people that were commenting before it even started, which is awesome. We've got Bruce Damon, we have Barrio772, Zenga, Kobe McClurg, Poseidon's Collectibles, we have Lil Pookie, Stu Who is Stu? We don't know. Des T, Phil the Force, Joachim Ardvidson, Daniel Chart, we have Des T, Cat Dad, No Longer Sad, it's quite a good name. Jawa Merchant, we have Issam Abru, we have Dystopian Playgrounds, Matthew Decker, Cisco Deer, Jeff Da Silva, Aidan Shivers, Delvian Seek, Brett on Fett, lots of familiar names coming through now, so thank you all for joining us. Potato Robotics, Mitchell Gum, Larry Hines, J Guy Studios, Customs for the Kid is here, Scott Layton, Bjorn Jorgensen, Nelly Fett, Jared Cantor, how you doing, my friend? And yeah, everyone's here basically. Mechanized, Coughlin's Law, Rogue Killer, SW Nerd, Mary Sullivan. I'm going to stop there. Hello to everybody in the chat. We really appreciate you joining us once again. And in today's live stream, we are going to be revealing the results of round 2 of Last Figure Standing. So all week you have been voting or putting forward your up to top 3 of the 6 figures that were that made it into round 2. So yeah, basically we're going to show you the results as we go through tonight. And we are going to be left with how many, Chris?
We will be down to the final 4 after.
Yeah,
tonight.
So you've been voting for up to 3. You didn't have to do all 3. You could have just done 1 if you wanted to. Tactical voting and things like that going on. But we will be putting through the 4 from the 6, and then this week you'll be able to put forward 2. Is that correct?
That's right, 2.
Up to 2. And we had over 1,500 submissions this time. So another pretty high amount of submissions, which is great.
That is awesome. That it hasn't gone down as people have lost their sort of characters, maybe, or whatever, which could be something that might happen. But yeah, we appreciate everybody getting involved. Appreciate everybody voting for their figures and everything like that. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to say thank you to Chris Curran. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Hammerhead or Ventress. So before we get into the results, Victoria, I'm just going to share, if I can find where I put it, your top 10. We'll just have a quick chat about that, if you don't mind. So let me just share that quickly. Share screen, window. Here we go. So I hope everybody can see that. Do you just want to run through your thinking behind your choices, and then we can look at who's still in of your choices?
Yes, absolutely. So these were my top 10 at the very beginning of all this. There wasn't really any, they're not in any particular order, I wouldn't say. But yeah, I mean, Time for Tonica, that's no surprise. They had to be on this list. They're on the list. And I talk a lot about Kira, how that's like a really gaping hole in TVC. And so, I had to have her on the list as well. Balin and Shin, I mean, those are fresh off Ahsoka, and they're very glaring omissions to have not been announced at this point for TVC. Asajj Ventress, that's one that has been done in 3 3/4, but not anywhere near where she needs to be, not what we expect at TVC in 2023. So, I had to have her on here. Luke and Han, I mean, those are classics. Those are, originals. Those have not been done in any acceptable fashion up to this point. At the time that the last versions were released, Han in particular, VOTC, he was great, but we're 20 years removed from then. Luke, has fared even less well. Ben Kenobi, we don't have a definitive version of him. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Revenge of the Sith, that's another one that is in sorely in need of an update. And then Anakin, of course, at this point, like, I think we have better version of Anakin, I've said before, than we do Han, Luke, or maybe even Obi-Wan Kenobi from Revenge of the Sith. But that's such an easy one. Like, that one just sells itself. And I talked in a previous episode of the TVC podcast that, that's an easy one to do in deluxe. If you want to really elevate that assortment, do them in deluxe. Sith Eyes version, normal version with the cloak, with some accessories. It just sells itself. And then you can recard it later on, an Ahsoka card and a Revenge of the Sith card, whatever it is. But yeah, these are my top 10. These are the ones that at the time I made the list, I felt, 100% need to be in the vintage collection. And yeah. So some of them have survived and held on for the last couple of rounds, but we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah. So yeah, you've still got a few. You've still got a few going strong there, haven't you? So it's looking good. I do appreciate that you have Kira on there. She's a particular favorite of mine. I do like Solo as a movie. It's not as good as some of the other movies, but it's a fun movie. Absolutely. And I just the outfit there, she looks super cool in that outfit. Basically, make a good figure that would. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for going through that. And while we're on the conversation of, I think you mentioned something there. You actually did about your podcast. You had Emily recently on the Vintage Collection podcast, which was pretty awesome. So how was that? Was that fun? I take it was.
It was a blast. And, I'm super, thankful to Emily. I know she's really busy for making the time to come onto the show. We first started discussing this back in May of 2022 during Star Wars Celebration. And, there's just so many things going on behind the scenes on her end, on my end, and just coordinating the whole thing through Rogers and Cowan PR, who are amazing through that whole process. So hugely grateful to Emily and them and to Hasbro for making this happen. And yeah, no, it was great. We had a fun chat. And, anytime I do a conversation with somebody, I try to make it as fun as I can, to kind of add a little bit of fun elements to it, just to kind of make it more interesting for them and for the listeners. And, we had a really good time. We had a good time talking about things that weren't necessarily the vintage collection, even though that was the main focus of our chat.
Yeah.
But just kind of getting to know her better, getting to know her background, her role at Hasbro, what she collects, how she got into Star Wars, all of that stuff was great to hear. So yeah, we had a blast chatting, and if anyone hasn't checked it out yet, I hope you'll give it a listen. It provides some pretty cool insight into Emily and what she does, and why we have some fabulous items in the vintage collection right now.
Yeah, I particularly liked the bit where she explained about how the different departments in Hasbro sort of have to work together, and the things that have to be signed off at different points, and all that kind of thing. It does sort of open your eyes a little bit into sort of maybe some of the how can I put it? Some of the hoops they might have to jump through at different stages of the production. Do you know what I mean? To get things done, basically.
Yes.
And I know you said something about, you know, having to get like a third party into the room because they can't decide on which character to do, and it's like, you know, I thought that was really interesting. So that was a great interview. I appreciate you for doing it. I loved every minute of that. So
Yeah, no, thank you. And
yeah.
just throwing it out there, if they need a third party, I'm available. I'll happily be that third party.
yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
You Victoria also asked some, you know, really good constructive feedback type questions, and
Yeah.
the way you phrased them and handled them was just a great example of how we should all give our feedback. So great work.
Yeah, and also, you know, it's quite difficult for someone like that to, because there's so much that they're not allowed, just flat out aren't allowed to talk about, basically, isn't there? So it's you know, I thought she was quite transparent and open about what she can talk about, and we did get some, you know, you definitely managed to get tidbits out of her and whatever. So yeah, no, it's awesome.
The interview also made us pretty excited for 24. I mean, she alluded to some pretty fun things are going to happen. So it sounded like almost some new types of things or new offerings or something. So I'm excited for that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I just want to say a big thank you to Jeff Russell, big character in the community and a big supporter of my channel, and he has kindly donated another super chat, and he says, "Howdy y'all, is Die Hard a Christmas movie?" So we will answer that.
Absolutely
we'll
not.
start with you.
Absolutely not. It's a movie that takes place during Christmas. It is not a Christmas movie.
Come up to the coast.
What about you, Mr. Miko? Is it a Christmas movie?
It's never on my radar to watch during Christmas, but I'll happily watch it anytime I catch it. So, but
Victoria?
No.
I love how we're talking about Die Hard. Yeah, no, it is not. I agree with Chris. It's not a Christmas movie. It takes place. It's like Batman Returns, right? It takes place during Christmas. That's kind of the setting, but it's not a Christmas movie per se.
I want that ornament. I keep seeing this ornament floating around of him in the vent, you know, with his lighter. I want it.
And I'm with John. It's one of those films that I could probably watch at any time during the year because it's just an awesome movie. But yeah, it's probably not a it's not a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Do you get when they say, and the quarterback is toast? Do you even get that, Tim, or is it lost?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Okay.
I did hear a fun fact recently about Christmas Vacation that you know the scene when he gets stuck up in the attic and he has to put on all his like old mothers or grandmothers like winter clothes, and he's watching himself as a child in like the 50s or 60s. It's that period of time between when he was watching it and watching him as a child on those films. It's the same distance from that movie to the present. Oh, wow. That much time has transpired since that movie. It's crazy.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to rewatch that film this year. I think sit down with my wife and watch it. I do like Chevy Chase. So right. So shall we?
Jason's in the comment. He couldn't make it on the stream, but he's in the comments. He weighed in on
it. There you go. Is Die Hard 2 set at Christmas as well, isn't it? It is, isn't it? Yeah.
I know it's snowing.
Because he says that line, doesn't he?
Oh, right.
How can the same thing happen to the same guy? Blah 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 blah. Yeah,
yeah.
Right. Okay. So shall we get on with it? Shall we start the reveal process? Let's start with let's start it.
Tonight, we are going to witness the most anticipated match for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Let's get ready to rumble!
Yes. Great job.
All aboard the hype train. Got to hype these things up a bit, haven't you? So
Love it.
let me just very quickly before we do that, let me just bring this up. Yeah, so we can just remind ourselves quickly. Let me just
top 6.
I've got to be very careful not to, share the wrong thing as usual. So there we go. That's what we're talking about. This is the round 1 results, and you've been voting in round 2. All these numbers getting really confusing now. So, and we're going to be moving on to round 3 this week. So, in the voting, we have the Tonica sisters, we have Cobb Vanth in his Mandalorian season 2 outfit. We have Miss Ventress. I think she's a miss. I'm not sure if she's married or not. We have a Hammerhead and Balin and Shin from Ahsoka. So a nice mix. You guys have been voting all week. So let's stop sharing that. Now I've reminded everybody what that is. And should we do the first thing? Should we do it? What are we doing? We're going to be
2 safe.
revealing 2 that are safe, right?
Yep.
To start with. Okay. Here we go. There you go.
So we should know those aren't necessarily the top 2. They're just 2 safe.
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Miko has a little bit of a television producer inside of him, and I think he's figured out the right way to build up the drama for this. And
we were in sync on
yeah.
this. Yeah.
We kind of figured that these are the ones that people are assuming are safe. We're not going to tell you how safe they are. They're just safe.
Okay. What do you think of that? Those, Victoria? Happy?
Very happy with those 2. I mean, we obviously really need all these 6, but like those 2, definitely I've seen the passion that people have had for the 2 of them, and I'm happy to see that they're safe.
Miko?
I had them both in my top 10, so I'm pretty happy. It's hard to see both of them and Cobb Vanth, what is it, the Book of Boba Fett version in the Black Series, and we don't have any of them, so it sucks.
Chris, how many of your original top 10 are now in this list? Any at all, or
2? The Tonica sisters and Balin are still in it.
I think Victoria and I have 4.
Yep.
4 each. Different ones. Yep.
Wow. Okay, I've got none.
I'm telling you, that's because you got too creative, Tim, with your list. That's what happened.
Well, I wanted Rogue One figures. If the line's going to end tomorrow, I want them to finish Rogue One. So.
You'll never be that third party that Emily spoke of.
No,
sorry.
I knew that already, John. That's fine.
I'm there with you, buddy.
It would be terrible if Tim was that third party. We'd start having extra U's in our name pills for some reason.
Oh dear! Why do I feel bullied on this live stream? That's terrible.
I could see that in both Cobb,
3 Americans,
Cobb and Vanth, that happening in both.
Well, from my point of view, there's obviously 6 characters here that weren't on my list, but it doesn't mean I don't want any of them. I want all of them.
Great point.
And I'm quite happy with that. Balin is something that I, got a bit annoyed about when he wasn't part of the, the original sort of lineup for the Ahsoka series. If you're going to make any character from that show, apart from a few of the others, then that is the guy. And Cobb Vanth is, a big gap in a lot of people's collections. So, and hopefully if they ever do that Cobb Vanth, the one with the armor, then they'll maybe do a vehicle for him or something, which would be pretty cool. Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing that. So, Chris, how we talked about this beforehand. Like, am I going to run the next video without showing a graphic beforehand? Is it just when we do the?
Well, I think so. So now we put 2 safe. So now we're going to do 2 head-to-heads just to really build up the tension. So I don't know if you can put up just a graphic of the 2 who are going to go head-to-head before we run the video. Can you do that? Do you have it?
You
can do it.
I broke Tim. Somebody reboot him.
Cobb Vanth is just a fake New Zealander. Did I miss something there? Why?
Maybe Cobb Vanth throws 5 POA figures. Maybe that's why he's a New Zealander.
Yeah, I wonder if Mr. Adewale has found that toxic PVC he threw into the fields behind his house.
So we can just discuss it, Tim, if you.
No, I found it. I'm just worried it's not the last one. So I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna do it, and if it's wrong, it's wrong. So we're going to be showing you 2 now, which are going to go like head to head. So one is going to go through and one is out. So I'm going to share this now. That's right, isn't it, Chris?
Yep. This is the next round. Now, do we want to let people vote and see who they think is going to make it out of these 2?
We will. Let me just. We're gonna do a poll. Let me just. Let me just, because I have to go into YouTube to do this.
And, Robert Westwood is asking, would someone please help me understand why Balin's skull is so well liked? He hasn't done anything truly inspirational yet beyond swinging an orange lightsaber, killing a few New Republic troopers. Well, I think it was the, pretty amazing acting of Ray Stevenson.
Yeah.
Really owning the character and the mystery behind the characters. I think that was a pretty big part of it. I don't know if Victoria, Chris, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that's well said. I mean, he brought something fresh and unique and mysterious and intriguing to Star Wars, and I think that's great. We need that kind of a character every now and then that doesn't have their intentions like spelled out. I think that's why people liked him. And it's too bad that
Yeah.
things happened the way they did.
Yeah, he almost underplayed the role, which was perfect to build up the mystery and as they say on Seinfeld, make you want more.
Right then, guys, in the chat, I'm going to be putting up a poll now, and it's an easy question: who goes through? Is it Hammerhead or is it Ventress? So I'm going to start the poll now and be interesting to see the results. Let's go.
And one is in and one is out.
Vote. 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 Oh, 50 votes already.
Yeah.
Wow.
People are split. Hammerhead's starting to gain. We'll just give it a minute or so, just so people get their votes in. If you can't vote for some reason because you're on the wrong device or whatever, then just put what you think in the chat as well if you like. And while you're at it, hit the like button on the video, on the live stream. That always helps as well.
Fine, Tim, I'll hit the like button.
Daniel Chart saying Hammerhead better go through. Drew Matt, Tim, how are you? I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Okay, so Hammerhead has 64% of. Is that? Yeah, he has 64%, which is pretty good.
Let's see if they're right.
Let's see if they're right. Let's go back to here, and I'll stop sharing that. Okay, we'll do it then. Let's show them who's through and who's out. Let's do it. This Hammerhead.
Hammer.
64% of the people are going to be happy, unless they, that they might have been voting who they think's going to go through, not maybe who they want to go
Right.
through.
True. Yep.
I'm personally surprised. I know some people were questioning, even from the nomination phase, if were these characters really that both Hammerhead and the Tonica sisters, and I hand checked every single vote, and yes, they're that popular.
Yeah, and we'll definitely release all this information when everything is all said and done. I will say this: in round 1, Asajj actually had more votes than Hammerhead. In round 2, she did not.
And that to me speaks to the value of doing this elimination style. The shape of the votes changes as people drop off. I think Luke and Ben getting dropped off last round benefited Hammerhead this round.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's great that Hammerhead's through. I don't get me wrong. Ventress is definitely a figure that I would absolutely love in TVC, but I think it's good. I just think it's a good thing that Hammerhead's through. Good to see that representation of the Cantina aliens.
Does that give you confidence, Victoria, or does it make you nervous?
No, it's great. And, Chris, to your point that you were talking about people kind of changing around, like Hammerhead wasn't on my top 10, but I was talking last night on my Cantina Social Hour live stream that I jumped ship between Ventress and Hammerhead because it was just, and same for Claude Banth. He wasn't on my top 10, but he was one of my top 3 picks because, I was kind of looking at it like, well, I love Ventress, I love Balin and Shin, and, what's probably the least likely, like on paper to get made. And I started thinking, Hammerhead and Cobb, I think are probably pretty good to back at this point. So that's why I went with Hammerhead in this case. But yeah, no, that's awesome. There's a demand for Cantina aliens, like you were saying, Chris, last week. They've done so much with Jabba's Palace, but the Cantina has all but been ignored for the last, since TVC has been back. So it's great to see it.
I saw you say that on the social hour last night that you deviated from your top 10, and knowing the results of this, which I don't want to spoil, I really appreciate that sentiment because in the next round, I'm going to deviate from my top 10 too.
Nice.
So let us know in the chat if you are happy with that result. 218 people watching at the moment. We've been going half an hour. Just want to say to everybody that's in the chat at the moment, we won't be going as long as usual for the 2 hours. There's less rounds to go through, and I've it's late. It's going to be late, and I've got stuff to do straight afterwards. So it won't be as long as usual. But we've still got plenty to discuss, and obviously the final reveal to do. So I'm just going to remind myself now of who's through and who's not. I think I've got a graphic for that. Yes, I do. So I'm going to share that now. Share that now, hopefully.
Correcto.
There we go. So through are Cobb Vanth, Hammerhead, Balin, and the first kicked out is Ventress. So then it's between the Tonica sisters and Shin Hati. Let's just quickly do a poll quickly just to see who people think is going to go through. I'll just set that up now.
Yeah, how you feeling, Victoria?
Yeah, where's your confidence level right now?
I'm super nervous.
Am I even sharing?
John, we need the it's working. It's working. We need the it's working GIF up right now.
Right, here we go. So who is
Did you see Jason Atwell's comment for at 5:31? I'd happily throw my Power of the Force 2 Hammerhead in the bush. You gotta throw the Saga one in too, because that one you gotta throw both of them, Jason. It's a twofer. Right. When I was doing
I'm going to start the poll now. Who is going through? Is it going to be the Tonica sisters or is it Shin Hati? Let's start the poll. See what people think.
And yes, Daniel, I said GIF by mistake. I know it's GIF.
I didn't even hear it.
that Hammerhead that John's holding up. When I went through and did the scene it for the Cantina where I did matched up all the shots, I actually had to split him in half, obviously because he can't sit. So to get him in the scene, I had to boil and pop them apart so I could set the scene up correctly.
Oh my god, that alone should be a reason to do a new one.
The sideshow figure is stunning. Of him,
it is. It's really stunning.
Zanger's comments are killing me in the comments. Let the hate flow.
Have y'all ever noticed how Hammerhead kind of looks more like a snail than he actually does like a hammerhead shark?
Oh man, I see it. Oh no, I'm never gonna unsee that now.
Sorry, John.
It's like a combination.
Right. Let's have a look at that poll. What's going on with it? So
70,
66, 67. It keeps changing. Think that the Tonicas are going through.
Would we really have Victoria on if they went through? I mean, isn't the right production to have her on when they get out so we can see the anguish on her face?
Yeah. I can't watch.
It's stressful.
Let me just quickly do this.
Yeah, and I feel like our voting has been pretty spread throughout various socials. So, we've had it obviously being shared on Instagram through our friends SWTVC and Jason and Victoria, YouTube with Tim, Facebook with us, and then Chris with the World Wide Web, and all your other socials, of course. But I think it's a pretty good spread of demographics, if you will.
See, Daniel Chart thinks the fact Victoria is there confirms that the Tonica's got through. Well, you might think that, but we always had the guests planned, like in who's going to be on when. So don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We're going to reveal it in a minute, though. I'm just trying to sort of
build it up.
Build it up and get the minutes passed and whatever. But let's have a look at some of the comments while we're waiting. So drum roll, that'll be in a second. Don't worry about that. Next round of voting is going to be so tough. Sure is. I do not want Balin without Shin. Yeah, that's the thing. Balin perhaps maybe have been dragging Shin with him throughout this process, so that could be the case. Knowing Hasbro will only get one of the sisters.
Mr. Shazoom, you're killing me. We had Tyler on last stream. He's pretty young. Obviously I don't know everyone's ages here. Victoria's young. Come on. What do we gotta invite someone who's
wasn't there a younger host?
Under the drinking age? Is that what we need to invite here? Somebody know any high schoolers or middle schoolers that want to join us on a live stream, please?
I was actually going to reach out to JCC anyway at some point, but I'm not sure if he likes showing his face on camera. I've seen him on a live stream before, and he has it blank. I'd still welcome him on if he wanted to do that.
I don't even know who that is.
He does like a lot of Clone Wars, a lot of
Nice.
Yeah. If you're into clones and clone figures, then he's the man, really. He does a lot of Transformers though as well recently. But what's Shazoom talking about? I'm 27. What's he on about?
We'll have Shazoom on next time. We just need to get a parent or guardian signature to allow him onto the stream.
I think middle-aged Kiwi man's comment at 10:37 your time, Tim, is pretty appropriate.
I'll come on to that just in 2 seconds.
Sure.
Thank you, Stu. Done properly, a Cantina set would be awesome sauce. It certainly would.
Yes.
What time, Chris?
I think it's 10:37 your time. Yeah. Take that, booger breath.
I mean, honestly, we're all here talking about toys, like little plastic people. Like we're all kind of kids.
Yeah, very true, Victoria. Very true. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I kind of get his point. And if I knew anyone of that age group, then I would invite them. But JCC is, as I say, it's somebody that I've wanted to reach out to for a while anyway. I've always enjoyed his videos. So let's see what other people are saying. Have you seen the State of the Black Series, Shin? Yes, we have indeed. Are there any TikTok TVC accounts that should hit the younger demographic? I think the only ones that I know of is people like me that have set up a TikTok account and then never use it.
I have a TikTok. It's not like 100% TVC, but there is TVC stuff on there.
Oh, nice.
Do you post quite a lot to that then, Victoria? Or
no, not enough.
No, that's the thing. It's
I think we all tend to focus on our main platform. TikTok is not one of them.
I'm 29, but a child at heart. This one.
Yeah, get little Bosk on next time. There we go.
Oh, Ben, you're killing me. You're killing me.
What's up,
Ben? Shazoom says, I'm of drinking age. I don't think it's productive to the line not to have younger voices. Otherwise, we lose a lot of the support the line could have. Absolutely. And as Chris said, we did have Tyler on last week. I'm not too sure how old Tyler actually is, but I would suggest it's
early 30s.
Yeah, and they've got Evan as well, who's I would imagine is around the same age, and they grew up with a different Star Wars than we did, and also they're very heavily sort of for like new media figures and things like that, and they shared this on Instagram to all of their followers. So when we get the message out, and the people that are actually doing the voting, that the people that this hits are a wide range of ages. So, but yeah, maybe we'll try and get someone younger on just for aesthetics more than anything else.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find a Black Series collector that'll come on.
Yeah. Oh.
The funny thing with the Facebook group is I feel young sometimes because our largest demographic is 45 to 54. Tuna.
TVC
I'm right,
Mackin, yeah.
right under there.
Yeah. Mackenzie. I'm not too sure how old Mackenzie is, but I've met Mackenzie. He's a lovely guy. And yeah, he might be a younger voice to have on at some point.
Well, I can't do next week, so we need villains.
Thanks for leaving us, Chris. Cheers.
Birthday boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Nice.
we've wasted 7 minutes. To string this out. So let's shall we do it?
You ready,
Does everybody
Victoria?
want to know who it is?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
There? 64% think it's the Tonica sisters. Let's do it. Let's find out.
Let's go. Yes.
Papa Tonica.
Gotta make a song
Right.
for Time for Tonica.
Yeah, you need a jam. You need a Tonica jam.
And John, correct me if I'm wrong. This is another one where Shin was very high last week, and then she dropped down.
Let me go to the dater.
Spoken like a true New Englander.
Yeah. She round 1, Shin Hati had more votes than the Tonicas. So
Right. Interesting.
when push comes to shove,
So there you go. That is the round 4. Sorry, what am I talking about? Round 2 results.
round 2 results. Yeah.
And we are now down to the top 4 of last figure standing. The way of voting, like all previous other rounds, will be available very shortly, I'd imagine, if John Miko publishes it.
I'm gonna get on that now.
And we will be sharing it around all of our social medias and whatever. So you've got all week. You don't have to do it right now or when it first goes up.
I'm going to put it
Yeah,
live.
you'll be voting for your top 2 of these 4 that you want to go through. So what are your thoughts, Victoria? You don't have to reveal who you'll be voting for if you don't want to influence anybody.
Yeah, I don't want to influence anybody, so I'm not going to talk about who yet, that I'm going to go for. But
one
no,
of them.
this is awesome. I mean, the hunger for the Tonicas has grown so big. And Chris, you were talking about how for a while people just kind of stopped talking about it because the answer from Hasbro was always, we can't comment, we can't comment, we can't comment, we can't comment. It was like that for a long time. And, I feel like now that I guess Hasbro and Lucasfilm and, everybody here knows that it's possible that it could happen. I mean, everything that would need to be in place for it to happen is in place for it to happen. It's just whether or not it's going to happen at this point. Situation has changed, and we're still not hearing a lot about it, like from through official sources, but at least there's conversations. At least it's not just we have no comment anymore. We can have a little bit of a dialogue about it. And yeah, A New Hope, that's almost a half decade ago at this point. These are the most prominent Cantina characters that have never had figures made. We should have had the Tonicas before we had Lisa Serlin or, Danik Jericho maybe, or Feltiprin Travag, or some of these just random like aliens that we've had, because we don't see them as much as we see the Tonicas. And it's a big deal. It's probably the most famous scene from any of the Star Wars films. Everybody knows that scene, whether or not you're a Star Wars fan. It goes right along with Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. And it's an untapped part of Star Wars figures at this point, even though they've done a lot of Cantina aliens over the last, since the Power of the Force 2. They haven't done any lately. So, I mean, you could potentially go back and revisit any of those that have been done in the past and bring them back, give them new life with all the bells and whistles of a modern, TVC action figure. So there's a lot of appetite for that. And I hope that Hasbro's, I know they're hearing it. And I'm really, really eager to see what happens with this next round, because it's going to be even more nerve-wracking than this top 4. But I'm stoked. I'm so happy to see, that these are the top 4. I'm happy to see 2 Cantina characters in the top 4. And let's do it. It's time for Tonica.
Yeah.
Well, no one's pushed for it
So-
as much as you have, Victoria. So for your sake, I hope it happens. But from my selfish point of view, I want them in the line as well. So, and the fact that we've got 2 Cantina characters in there, 3 if you count the 2 sisters, I just think that's great. I do. I think that's awesome. Together with some new characters as well. It shows that split, doesn't it? You got Balin from the most recent thing. You've got Cobb Vanth, who's a glaring omission. Also a cool character. I mean, he's in Boba Fett's armor, for God's sake. But to have Hammerhead and the Tonikas in there alongside them, that's just awesome. Loving it.
That's great.
Victoria, have you been speaking to Angela at all about this event?
Absolutely. She may be watching right now. I was talking to her about this in recent weeks. This was going on. So she is watching the results. I think she posted something last week about it on her page on her Instagram, and maybe her Facebook too. But she's totally keyed into this and very, very much excited about how well the Tonikas are doing. And she's made it clear to me before. She's like, hey, I'm getting older. I have the X, Y, and Z health problem, and I'd like this to happen. I'd like to finally see this happen after almost half a decade. So, I have seen some comments, if I can comment on real quick, that some people are like, oh, I don't understand the Tonikas. I don't understand why people are voting for them, why they're making it this high. And it's for the reasons we just kind of, expanded on a little bit. Is, there's an untapped potential for the vintage collection with regards to Cantina characters. But also when you talk about the Tonikas, it's been almost half a decade, and people have been asking for them for a long time. But it's almost a sort of, in a strange way, like a reverse Boba Fett kind of situation. Boba had the figure very early on, but he was a very mysterious character. He had a couple appearances before The Empire Strikes Back. It's kind of like just like the mystery and the intrigue behind the Tonikas is kind of itself up over all these decades in a very similar way, which contrasts to how Boba did it very quickly. But the Tonikas have not had a figure, and we're seeing that same sort of thing. And I think because part of it is people can't have what they want all the time, right? And that is kind of one of those things people have been asking for a long time. That's a very small piece of it, but it's just that it's been a long time coming. And I think there's a lot of reasons why these characters have made it as far as they have. Not to mention that we've been having conversations in recent years about why these figures would be so important to the line, and would be so important to those who have been collecting for almost half a century at this point.
And this might be a stupid question. I don't know whether to go there or not with it, really, but obviously the other sister, she's no longer, sadly, she's no longer with us. So does that, from your knowledge of this, does that affect anything at all? Or would it be a case of them maybe basing that likeness on something a little bit more generic or something? Or I don't really, it's difficult for me to sort of understand about that sort of side of things, licenses and all that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, the whole thing is a little hard to follow, but essentially what happened is back during the A New Hope days, or Star Wars back then, Lucasfilm secured likeness rights for everybody that was in Star Wars. It didn't matter what role they had. It didn't matter how minuscule they were. They secured likeness rights so they could potentially do merchandise, and that's one of the things that Lucas is well remembered as being brilliant for all that time ago, was that he secured the merchandising for Star Wars. And so at some point, I don't know exactly when it happened, Lucasfilm lost a lot of these likeness releases, and they had to go back years later, and as they were making more merchandise, like in the 90s and so forth, they had to go back and start getting these signatures again. And they were able to get Christine Hewitt's signature. She was the other Tonica sister.
Okay.
So they could have done that character at least at any point for the last however long it's been since they got the signature. I would say about 15 to 20 years. I believe they got that signature in the early 2000s from what I've been able to piece together. It's kind of like the ball is teed up at this point for them to take the swing and get everything else. Everything's in place, really. They can make the figure happen, both of them happen. But I think part of the reason we didn't see the other one is because it's just kind of like, well, when you had the expanded universe, you had, oh, no, this one's Brea and this one's Senny. No, this one's Senny, this one's Brea. And then they had other names for a while until they didn't have other names. So there's been a lot of stuff. And then they're like, are they twins? Are they not twins? And there's been so many variables that haven't really affected the figure not being produced of either one at this point. But the community demand is right here. Everybody can see it for themselves. Here's the evidence. And I hope that, this coupled with, that petition, coupled with these conversations, coupled with the enthusiasm people seem to have, are everything that we need to finally, for Hasbro to finally say, hey, this is the time to finally do it. So we'll see.
If I could make a little case for the Tonica sisters too, it's the same case I made the last time, and every time is, if you look at that establishing shot from A New Hope, when it kind of pans the cantina, almost, I think, part of the world building scale is you set up the scenes, right? You recreate the scenes in your displays. And we're also a little obsessive compulsive, so we want to create them as accurately to the movie as possible. Well, in that panning shot, almost every figure we have is on the right side of the bar.
Yeah.
We have almost nothing. Lee Sub-Serlin is actually one of the few, and Han and Greedo is actually one of the few figures from the left-hand side of that shot. And I would argue that the Tonica sisters are the two most, eye-capturing characters on that left side. If we're going to start populating the left side of our cantinas, those are the two to start with, because it's actually, a lot of the boring humans, including the moisture farmer that they're kind of at the bar with. And I think Deb Noley, a bald, just a bald human at the front. He's on that left side. Yurka Miggs on that left side. You have the little person. I can't remember it's Rykar something. I can't remember his name. There's not a lot of the Cantina dudes on the left side. The spaces are on the left side. I think those would make good figures. But definitely the Tonica sisters are the most, interesting characters on that side of the bar. And that's why I think they need to be made.
Yeah. I don't disagree with any of that, Chris. And I think,
Dystopian Playgrounds put the name in there for me. Rykar.
Rijard.
Yeah.
Rijard. Yeah, and, we've had, what was it, John? 1,500-ish votes, submissions for this round.
Yeah.
And if the Tonica sisters, we're not saying whereabouts but if they're in the top 4, then they've had a significant backing. So, yeah, it does make me sort of giggle to myself when people say, like in comment sections and stuff, like, oh, why are they through? Nobody wants these. Well, they wouldn't be there if people didn't want them. Do you know what I mean? So I know, you know, some people argue that, you know, there's 20,000 people that buy these figures or whatever, and you're only sort of polling 1,500 or whatever. But I think, you know, the people that are voting on these things are the engaged part of the community, the hardcore fans and whatever. So I think they, you know, need to be sort of taken notice of.
Yeah, and I think people will feel better when they see the people that are upset will feel better when they see the top 100 and they see the great mix of all sorts of media that made that, even into like probably the top 30, Chris. But you know, for this round, I'll just say that our top 4 rows above, you know, they really did, and it was pretty close between 3 and 4, but the other 2 they fell by the wayside. Not a ton, but you know, enough to you know, be a few horse lengths back, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, they all got a ton of votes. Two of them, I'll say, got 1 out of every 2 votes. 2 of them did, and the other 2 were pretty close to that, but not 1 of 2. So we'll just leave it at that. and we're not like releasing all of this information because again, we don't want people to be swayed to vote for what numbers are winning. You know what I mean? We want people to have an open mind and vote for really what they want to vote for, not what they think's going to win.
Yeah, or to try and reverse it. You know, if something's way ahead, then, you know,
good point.
Try and reverse that a bit. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, point. we don't want to influence it at all. That's why we're not, as John says, that's why we're definitely not telling you whereabouts these finish in the voting. We'll do that later, and everyone can see for themselves how things went. But yeah, you're right. I remember looking at the sort of top 50, and there is a massive diversity of, you know, medias and what have you.
Yeah.
The very first round, you know, the Snowtrooper and Bays literally just missed out. And I was talking to actually it was last night's. I was a guest on the ZSR live stream last night. Thank you guys for having me on and helping me promote this. You know, I said then that, you know, it had the Snowtrooper actually got into the top 10, then he may have gone all the way. You know, you just don't know. That's the thing. They've got to get in there first, and then you see where you're at after that.
I'm sorry, Tim. Who did you say you cut out for a second? Whose stream did you attend?
The ZSR. So it's the Shabby and
oh, nice.
Matt and Tez. They do
cool.
the Zero Shabby Reviews live stream every Friday night at 8:00. Nice. If anyone's ever interested in watching it, great bunch of lads. Thank you, Stu, again for the super chat. He says Ben, Luke, and Han as Cantina playset packing figs. That'd be nice.
Could I say no to that? Because I want to buy too many of them. I don't want to be tied to a
Yeah, you don't want them. You don't want them locked in behind a paywall, as it were, do you?
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments what you think of. You know, you don't have to say who you're going to be voting for, but let us know. You know what you think of the top 4, and also if you have any questions for our guest Victoria or Chris or John or myself, you're welcome to ask them as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Tim. I'll just say people are saying they've already submitted their votes, so it's been published to the Last Figure Standing Instagram. The link's in the profile for that, so last.figure.standing. And there's also a story where you can click on it as well. And it's also been published to the Facebook group there as well. So I'm sure, you know, obviously once we all have free time, we'll make all of our posts and articles to get to that. But
yep.
people
I made it live on Bantha Skull too.
Oh, awesome.
So it's there
Awesome.
too.
It's Chris.
We have a question here, which I'll like all your opinions on, actually, but it's from Shazoom, and he says, "Hey, boss, what's your thoughts on the return of 5POA? It has the same Epic Hero series branding as the Marvel line that is fully articulated." Yeah, I did notice that. I've got to say, I haven't really taken too much notice of them because I just don't think they're for me particularly. They're not targeting me with them. I'll be interested to see if they start doing vehicles and stuff with them, because that'll annoy me a bit. But 5POA is alive and well. It didn't last too long away, did it? It didn't take them too long to come back to doing it. I don't know whether Chris or John or Victoria actually knows this. Has it replaced the mission fleet, or are they still doing them? I just don't know, because I don't really pay attention to it. And I know what Shazoom's asking there, because I think the Marvel versions of them are super articulated, but
not super articulated, but more than 5 POA.
Yeah, like 9 POA or whatever.
Yeah.
But the Star Wars aren't. They're just literally 5 POA, aren't they?
Yeah. And to answer your question, I do believe it is replacing mission series fleet, whatever it is, whatever the little scale is.
Okay. Yeah, it would be a bit weird them running those side by side, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Victoria, what do you think about that? Are you going to be picking them up?
No comment. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not planning to at this point. I thought 5 POA went into the vault or whatever it was like a couple years ago, but I mean, I feel it's really important for kids to have access to Star Wars toys, right? The Vintage Collection is an adult collector line. It's treated like an adult collector line. It's marketed as such. Black Series, same thing. So unless they go to Mission Fleet or go into Lego or something else, there's not really a whole lot of Star Wars for them. So I mean, if that's what it takes to rope in new people, new kids that'll one day be TVC collectors, assuming that TVC is, or we're blessed that it goes on for a long time. That's really what it's all about, I would say. As far as why they're less articulated than the other figures in this same line that they do for X-Men and for Spider-Man and for all those other lines, I believe it's probably licensing being far more expensive than Star Wars. Yeah. So
to keep them at that price point,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Great points. Yeah.
I've got to admit, I don't even know. I think I saw one of them was the heavy Mandalorian. I think they're doing that one, and it looked pretty good, but as I say, it's not targeted at me, and I don't really have any interest in it. Basically, I didn't really have much interest in the 5 POA line. The ones that were, I think the Rogue ones were some of the Rogue One figures were quite nice. The sculpts were good, put it that way. But you've got to have bendy elbows. It's just,
Don't trigger Chris.
Yeah. and I always get hate mail every time you get me on the 5 POA subject.
There's I the other day on Twitter I saw there's an account called Elbowless88, and he just or whoever it is just posts like, oh, today I think one of them was like, my first car was a stick shift, but unfortunately it didn't go very well. Like it's just like random, like hilarious stuff.
That account's on YouTube, isn't it? They've been in my comment section of Livestream before.
I need to look that up. What if your Cantina aliens all had 5 POA? They would never be able to drink their drink. Sorry.
Sorry, go, Chris.
I was just gonna say that line too. It's not just 5 POA too. It's low deco too. They're gonna have no value to to put in the background of a TVC display, because they're going to stick out like a sore thumb because of the low deco on them.
Skywalker's Academy says, how far have the Tonica sisters come? I knew they had names in canon, but I wouldn't have known, separate from the Cantina, who they were if I read the comic or story about them, unless it was referenced. I'm not sure if that's a question or not, or a statement.
Well, I don't think they've. It's not how far they've come. I think it's how far they've come back. You know, kind of what Victoria was talking about earlier. They kind of had a lull there because people were just tired of hearing no. But they've been in demand since the line came back. It was one of the more requested figures almost immediately when Power of the Force 2 launched to have them. Just because, again, it's, you know, when you go through the Cantina scene, there's characters you can readily identify every time, and they're one of the ones that stand out in that scene. So people naturally want figures of them.
And yeah, Daniel, you're absolutely right, because if you look at the most recent retro collection figures for the Book of Boba Fett, I mean, some of the sculpts, like the head sculpt of Boba Fett, I think it is the Nomad Fett. It's 5 POAs alive and kicking in that line as well. Absolutely.
Speaking of the Tonikas, I know last week we were kicking around like accessory ideas, and you know, as we were putting some of these photos together and found some great photos, I'd love to hear what Victoria thinks about, you know, what they could have. Could they have a hookah like Danik Jericho or whatever his name is?
I don't think we're ever going to see a figure come with that kind of an accessory again.
Ever again?
Be a vape.
No, they can't come with that, but they can come with a gun. But you know, that's just where we're at.
What's the difference there? I mean, come on. One kills you quickly, one kills you slowly.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, honestly, like if they didn't come with anything, we're getting the Tonikas, right? That in and of itself would be awesome. But you know, it's great when a figure has an accessory. Like it's kind of painful when they don't. Looking at you, Morgan Elsbeth. You know, maybe you give her a bar glass. Maybe you give
a bar glass would be great.
Yeah, and you can give her a little dagger. You can give her a little pistol, or you know, I think there's things you could supply them with that might be kind of nice.
Removable garter belt. I mean, come on, could have some fun scenes with that.
Yeah, if you say so.
Simmer down, Johnny. Johnny, simmer down.
Takan says, I'll ask again, did Han Solo not have the sisters by his side in a deleted scene? Does anyone remember? He's basically saying, did Han Solo pull in the canteen?
I don't remember that, but that doesn't mean anything because I forgot John's birthday in within 24 hours. So me not remembering a deleted scene wouldn't mean much. Yeah, I agree with what Mecca and I said. I believe it's Jenny he's thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Jenny.
Oh, there, yeah. Patrick Shark. He was hooking.
Very Star Warsy name, Jenny.
Jabba the Hutt has a hookah. Good point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the hookah
has a vape.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah, maybe, you know, we just need to remind them that the hookahs of that time were completely vetted out with the Surgeon General, and they're okay.
They had coffee in them.
Exactly. Jenny from the block.
Yeah. Shazoom again, he says, I personally think 3.75 inch biggest problem right now is introducing new, younger fans. There is little advertising, and what there is all aimed at existing fans who will already buy what they announce. I also think that it needs the content as well, like something. The sequel trilogy obviously split the fans a little bit, and you've got what's on Disney Plus, and The Mandalorian sort of was a universal success because of Baby Yoda. Basically, you had Baby Yoda everything, you know, that kind of sort of hit outside of like the pop culture people. So I kind of feel that they need sort of like a runaway, you know, something like that does, you know, that's massive basically. But there's also the fact that obviously kids have got a lot more distractions to take them away from toys this year. So it must be a much more of a difficult sell than it used to be. Do you know what I mean? With video games and phones and just you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, the only things that when I was a kid that, you know, was other toy lines. Basically, they're fighting for that space under the tree at Christmas or whatever. You know.
I just know two things like the new Ninja Turtles movie and that toy line. I mean, just knowing some much younger friends, younger children, they're all about that type of stuff. So, you know, you gotta get them interested in Star Wars too to begin with.
Yeah, that's
I'm not worried about attracting like newer collectors via the figures. To me, it comes down to when you get into, people will get into collecting, you know, and when they get into collecting, do they want, you know, AT-ATs? Do they want those? If you want them, you're going to get into the 3 3/4 inch scale. So I think it's going to naturally keep attracting people that want vehicles. You know, if you don't want them, go collect Black Series and you're a boring collector. So those are your two choices.
But it's also on Hasbro's part to put those things out as well.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
The Ghost spoke volumes. That Ghost campaign spoke volumes. So
Yeah.
I won't say to a lesser extent, I think to an equal extent, Mando's N1 spoke volumes. You know, if Hasbro wants to keep ringing that bell, they got to keep bringing them, and they have to bring the figure support that goes with them.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it on yesterday's live stream that, you know, obviously the figure sales go hand in hand with the vehicle sales. Like, I don't think they would have sold as many R5D4s had you not needed the head for the N1 Starfighter. So
yeah, it's like a current, you know, the figures get the demand for the vehicle then demands other figures, and they keep pulling each other along.
Well, there's that very, just to go back to the younger kids, there's that new cartoon series, right? I forget the name of it, for toddlers.
Jedi Adventures or something, is it? Something like that.
Is it Jedi Adventures?
With the little blue teddy bear thing with the lightsaber. Not too sure what he is.
Yeah. I know. Victoria, help us out.
No, I'm just laughing because I like the way Tim said it, the little blue teddy bear with the
Blue teddy bear.
That's basically what it is, though. It's accurate.
Looks like colored like Stitch. Looks like an Ewok. It's not.
Is it Young Jedi Adventures? I'm sure somebody in the chat
Young Jedi Adventures. I think that's it. And maybe they need something between Tales of the Jedi and that to get a movie of sorts to get, you know, young kids that aren't toddler age into this type of stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, because that series is like kind of hidden away on Disney Plus as well, isn't it? And I don't know how many people subscribe to Disney Plus, but you know, we're in that age now where, you know, TV channels, you have to subscribe to something to get the content now, don't you? You don't get these things on a channel that's free for everybody, sort of thing. So
right. Yeah, and even the first couple seasons of The Mandalorian. I mean, my 10-year-old daughter, huge fan of Grogu and The Mandalorian, and seems to kind of lost steam with the writer's strike, all the content they're trying to juggle, and she wasn't even that interested in season 3, to be honest. So
yeah, season 3. Oh.
Can't blame her.
Yeah.
Tim Fetmatic at 11:14.
This one.
Yeah, so you're only half boring. It's okay.
Chris.
I'm teasing, I'm joking. I collect G.I. Joe Classified, so I'm not opposed to that scale.
I collect Nika Turtles, the movie series that's 7-inch.
And our good friend Jason Yakface, he collects both scales, doesn't he? So,
Victoria.
Hey, watch it there. No, I pick and choose some of them.
Yeah.
But now, if we're comparing sizes, I jump to Hot Toys too. So
I know. I got 4 pending. Oof.
You're doing better than I am.
Blimey.
I got C-3PO with Salacious, Vader 40th, Cobb Vanth waiting, and Kenobi Vader. Waiting for those.
Solid ones. I won't go into my list because it's scary.
Do you think the Jabba's playset will ship before its September release date?
We haven't been lucky with that lately, have we? Boba Fett's throne room missed its window by months.
Yeah, to be honest, that's one of our questions. I know it's a moot point at this point, but one of our questions for Hasbro is about what happened in late August, September, and we hope to never see that again to collectors because that made people pick one thing over
even
another.
November was kind of rough with all the case assortments that were going out.
Not yet. It's shipped, but it's coming to make the cross-country trek from the West Coast.
I've got mine. I've had mine for about a week, but I haven't opened it.
I did see some.
You have to rub it in, Tim, don't you? Every time.
Well, I'm not sure if I even want it anymore. That's the thing.
I really want to ask Hasbro, why do you screw over your largest consumer base, America, for these people on a little island that tried to, stay in control here and failed?
I don't know. You got the last couple of waves. You got those before we did over here. Maybe not all of them, but Entertainment Earth got them all, didn't they?
In solid cases.
Yeah, they got the individuals. They didn't get the assortment.
Right.
The assortment for the Revan wave is still slated for February from them.
Weird.
SW Nerd says, I want Frog Lady, Therm Scissor Punch, Gus Whip, lots of other names that I don't want to pronounce.
Another Cantina, yeah. I want all those
my
too.
son watches Young Jedi and Lego Star Wars.
Cool.
Speaking of the concept of, if you get something, then you want something else. If we do ever get a Sheriff Cobb Vanth, I'm going to be really upset that we don't have Pike Soldiers in TVC.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like sorting one gap out kind of opens up another one, doesn't it? Yeah. Do you think they'll do anything with 88's elbows?
Nope.
No.
Sorry, Shazoom. I was half joking.
Is there any news on potential Ewoks? I was very disappointed this year that all we got was a new wicket for the 40th. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed with that as well. I probably think we've missed the boat now. Now the 40th's gone. We'll have other things in the fire, I would imagine. Unfortunately,
I can't complain about the 40th considering what we did get.
Yeah, we did. There was a decent offering. Yeah.
We got the most amazing offering, that 4-pack to get Belkin Tazari and Tamdrin Garen. I mean, I'm not going to complain about the lack of Ewoks after getting those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Squid Head in there as well.
Yeah. Squid Head, which I think is going to be my number one figure of 2023 when I get around to doing the list.
Oh, really?
Bib Fortuna was high on my list not last year, but 2 years ago. Just those 096ers that just look great and have the articulation. I can't help it. They go right to the top of my list.
Yeah. Bib Fortuna was a great figure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They nailed the head on that thing. They nailed it. Well, especially when you compare it to the Black Series version again. Oh, dear, oh dear. I don't know what happened with that one. Wow. But yeah, it's a shame about 88's elbows. I think, you know, they kind of admitted, didn't they, after a couple of other excuses, they did admit eventually that it was a cost thing. You know, to keep that set at a cost that they felt was acceptable to the consumer. This is them saying it, not me, by the way. That they couldn't do that. Bit of a shame.
Yeah, I'd rather not have it at all than to, because that's going to be it. So that's it. We're never going to get another 88 ever. You know, we got the Power of the Force 2-1. 20 some odd years later, we get this one. That's it. Another one. So.
Oh no!
Oh, what's going on, John?
Oh my God!
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Have you spilt something?
I spilled my drink.
It's okay that we're just going through the chat, but I think we're gonna bring this to an end anyway. I did mention earlier that this was going to be a shorter stream, less things to go through, and I'm not going to read out Daniel Chart's comment there. But yeah, I just want to say thanks, Victoria, for joining us. Appreciate it. It's very insightful, especially about you are the sort of knowledge base when it comes to the Tonica sisters, amongst other things as well, of course. But on that particular subject, you are definitely the go-to person that knows anything about it more about it than anybody else, I feel. So thank you for offering some of that information on this live stream.
Yeah, of course. No, thank you guys again so much for having me on. It's been great talking and seeing all this unfold live. And yeah, if anybody still has questions on the Tonicas, I do have a video on the channel that I did a couple years ago. It's basically it just kind of goes into the whole thing, that kind of a little bit about what we talked about here, but just kind of dispel some things that were out there that weren't necessarily correct, and goes into what is accurate. So if anybody wants to know a little bit more about him, I think that's probably the best way to kind of get the whole story through that video.
Yeah, because I remember that. It's very informative. And I also remember there was a similar video doing the rounds at the same time with inaccurate information. So
exactly. And that's what prompted my response video.
Yeah. And not digging anyone out, but that channel has also made a video saying that fan polls and petitions are a complete waste of time, and Hasbro don't take any notice of it. And I disagree with that, because I personally don't think that we would have Dooku coming if it wasn't for the push from the fans. We definitely wouldn't have Velkin. So I think these things do work. It does get their attention. So
yeah, absolutely. And that video is called Debunking Rumors About the Tonica Sisters.
Yeah. So everybody in the chat, I'm sure you know Victoria's channel by now. If you don't, you might also want to check out her interview with Emily, who is the lead designer for the TVC line. And it's a great video, that. Or you can catch it on the podcast as well, because it's in podcast form, isn't it, as well, on the Vintage Collection podcast. So make sure you check it out. Yeah. So thanks for joining us this week, Victoria. We've just told everyone where they can find you, but anywhere else that they can find you?
Just the usual socials. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Victoria's Cantina, TikTok, as I mentioned earlier. Don't do a lot with it, but I'm on there. And yeah, no, we do the Cantina social hour most Fridays. Going to take a little bit of a break for the holidays, but that's always fun. We always have a different guest, or multiple guests, or sometimes it's just me. But I always try and make it fun. But no, thank you again very much, Tim and Chris and John, for having me on today, and letting me see this unfold in real time. And I'm going to be really nervous these next couple of weeks, but I'm still crossing my fingers, and yeah, we'll see what happens.
We've got John back on a different device. Look at him.
I blame Hasbro and 88's elbows for spilling a mule on my very expensive laptop, which thank God I have Apple Care.
John, I just have to say, you tease me for being old, but I'm not old enough to have seen Lee Harvey Oswald be assassinated on live television. I missed that moment. You spilling the Moscow Mule makes up for that. That was my Lee Harvey Oswald moment right there. That was great.
Well, John, you're just back. You're just back in time to say goodbye, basically.
Okay.
So I don't need to thank you and Chris for joining me. You're part of this. So
Correct.
Chris is, even though Chris isn't here next week, but we'll make sure that we've got a guest on that can substitute him, and then if he's better, we'll keep him on for the next week as well.
I suggest George Wendt. Have George Wendt fill in for me, please.
I don't know who that is, John.
I don't know.
Norm from Cheers.
No, don't watch it. Never.
Oh my God, Tim, you're so uncultured.
He does that to me with every random movie that he's seen too. It's like, bro, I don't know how you moonlight during work and watch all these shows and movies. But.
Hey, I just want to say, Larry Hines a ways back asked when the next Q&A is. We've kind of been discussing it. We haven't really told anybody. It's on Tuesday. There's a Hasbro Q&A on Tuesday. The middle-aged Kiwi Man is actually going to be filling in for a Bantha Skull because neither Brett and I could attend. So,
oh, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll be great. If they can understand him, yeah. and he joins at the right time, of course. Like not the day before. I thought it was Monday.
I think it's 4:50 a.m. on Wednesday for him. Is what he said.
He had a cricket post today, and I understood none of it, but I'm happy for whoever William is.
Yeah, your debut. I'm pleased for you, man. That'll be great. I wish I was on the same one then, so I could make faces at you and try and make you laugh or something. Put you off.
He'll be with Augustine, so have fun.
Yeah. So everybody that's watching, the voting for round 3 is now live. You can vote. We will be sharing it all week, of course, on our social media platforms and what have you. Anybody out there that has a YouTube channel or a following of any description, then share it all out, make videos about it, and talk about it. Let's try and get more people involved as we go along that instead of it going down. We've got a good mix in there. We've got the Tonica sisters. We've got Hammerhead from the original trilogy, and then we've got Cobb Vanth from The Mandalorian and Balin from Ahsoka. So very recent character to choose from. You get to choose 2 of 4, and we'll be back next week, next Saturday, same time, to reveal the 2 that go through to the final. Hope I've hyped that up as much as I can. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you everybody in the chat for watching and participating in the polls, and thank you once again, Victoria, and we shall see you soon.